Hi, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Jelena.
Welcome to our YouTube channel.
Channel. It's not our YouTube, I wish.
Yeah, well, maybe one day. We're getting close. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers.
My parents are impressed.
But are they subscribed?
They're not.
Yeah. See, there's still so many more people we could get that should be here. But you're here, so thank you. We appreciate it.
So before we go any further, remember to like our videos, to comment, which you guys are doing, and we really appreciate it, and we read it, and maybe send it to someone.
Like share it?
Share it, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so today's tutorial is on full lotus pose. We just recently did a quick little Instagram tutorial on this, and you know, that medium is, you have to be pretty brief, so we thought this would be a chance to kind of talk it out a little bit more. Spoiler alert, I can do full lotus. I'm in it now. That's how you know I'm a very advanced yoga person. Yep. But how did I get here? Well, that's what Jelena is going to tell you.
So lotus, it's interesting because it takes time and takes patience, but it's important for those of us that maybe through whatever, you want some kind of a human lottery and your hips are open from the day one and you can get into the lotus, or you've done some other kind of a physical activity in your life, like for me being a dancer, that allows you to get into the lotus almost from the first day you show up to a mat. You still have to be careful as to how you get into it or how you teach others to get into it, especially if the lotus is a new thing.
Yeah, good technique is important, I think, for all ranges of motion. Mm-hmm. Probably especially when you're tight, mm-hmm. You have to be extra careful. But even when it comes really easy for you, you still do need to get the alignment correct, because knee joints are fickle. Like they'll if everything isn't perfect, then problems can start to show up over time. One of the interesting things we've noticed kind of teaching around the world is how cultural the ability to do this is. So places where people squat a lot or sit on the floor, mm-hmm. Can get into full lotus. Generally speaking.
Generally speaking, but it's true. We just came back from Saudi, and almost all of the room was able to do half lotus and sit in full lotus. And they eat in Saudi. Culturally, people will eat on the floor often, and they'll sit. And they even told us, like, this is considered like a Saudi way to sit on the floor. And so things like that do show up on the mat and influence our ability to do certain things, including a full lotus.
Yeah. Yeah, and even like just recently, and when we were in Saudi, people might have tight hamstrings or, like tight shoulders, whatever, other things that we all get. But just that habit of sitting on the floor gives you open hips. So interesting, that how where you're born can kind of shape you as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you might be watching this because you're not born there.
You're not from Saudi.
Or somewhere that sits on the floor. And a lot of our students in the West, especially sitting on chairs, have problems with the half lotus and the full lotus. So this is for you. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when we're trying to do it, first let's talk about the knee joint. We actually have a whole Healthy Knees video. I'll put the link there that you can check that out too. Some of this will be repetition, but we're going to really focus on getting into full lotus with this video. So the knee is a hinge joint, and the hip is a ball and socket. Okay?
Yeah, it does all this stuff.
Yeah, it goes all the way around from the thigh, not from the knee, right? The knee basically just folds the shin and the thigh together, right? Closes the joint or opens it up. So it either comes into extension like that, a straight leg, or I guess, what do they call it? Contraction?
Bending the knee.
Bending the knee. And that's it. That's all the knee does. Quite boring. I wouldn't really go out with it anywhere if it invited me. It's like, do you want to extend? Do you want to contract? No, I would like to go all the way around like a hip joint. See the hip joint? Big circles. So much to do. So what we need to do when we're getting into a half lotus or a full lotus is close the knee joint, do what it likes, and then keep the knee joint closed and get the movement to come from the hip joint, from the femur in the hip, rotating out to lift the foot up. Okay? So the first thing that we do, closing the knee joint, pretty simple. Usually this is accessible to everybody unless there's some kind of damage in the knee. If you can't close your knee because of like a meniscus tear, something like that, then I wouldn't go any further with this kind of work right now. But if you can do this, if you can close like Janu Shirshasana A and Ashtanga, just folding the shin and the thigh bone together, this is closing your knee joint. And you see how Jelena did that? She dragged her foot along the floor. This is good technique because she's keeping the thigh and the shin in line as it closes. So she's not closing the knee joint by pulling it up and towards her. This would be a torquing action. She's torquing the knee joint by lifting the shin higher than the thigh.
And this is something that I encountered about maybe 2 years into my practice because I didn't really pay attention too much to how I closed my knee joint for half lotus or full lotus because it was easy for me. I kept doing this. And then as I kept doing that day, after 2 years, I started to feel like a funny sensation here in my knee. And all I had to do is back off for some time and then reapproach it, but reapproach it more mindfully, where at first I had to be really formal about this movement because that was the only way to overcome this habit. If I wasn't formal about it, my body would just go into this kind of motion. So then I had to do this, kind of be careful to close by dragging the foot on the floor and avoid any kind of lifting of my shin.
Yeah. If you're a yoga teacher, and for us, when someone tells you their knee hurts and they're doing a half lotus, get them to do that. Just watch them close their knee and come in, into half lotus or whatever. But if they're lifting the shin without rolling the thigh out, that's going to be causing the pain over time. It's super common. It's almost always the answer, right, at first.
And it's such a small movement, but do you see where my hand is? It's below and it's kind of holding and lifting my shin. So what we want to make sure is that if we're using the hands, we're using them from the top in the front, and we're just using it to drag and bring the heel as close to the pubic bone without any of this lift. It's so small, but it makes a huge difference.
Okay, so 1, we close the knee joint. 2, now we're going to externally rotate the thigh, and we want the shin to stay with the thigh as we externally rotate. So basically it's all moving like one piece. So again, Jelena is not going to use the strength in her arms to pull up on the shin. She's going to use the strength to pull the shin against the thigh to keep the knee joint closed as she rolls the femur out, maybe even rolling a little bit towards the back of the hip. Okay, that lifts the foot high enough that when you adduct, when you start to bring that leg in towards the center line, the foot is going to come onto the top of the opposite thigh. In Ashtanga, we always do the right leg first. Okay, right leg first. And actually, this comes from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which says right leg first as well. So it has a textual source, but it doesn't say why. And then there's lots of different, if you want to look around for different explanations for it. But usually they'll just say, like Patavi Joyce in Ashtanga Yoga would say, because the Shastras say so, because the texts say so. That's enough. Okay, so we squeeze the right leg in a little bit until the right foot is on the top of the thigh. And this is like an important part too. We have to get the right foot into the right place. So we want to get the right foot high enough on the thigh that the foot is supported, really the ankle is supported by the leg. But there's another thing we need to be careful of. A lot of the time when people put the foot too high or high where it needs to go, they start to feel pain in the quadricep.
So one of the ways, actually, as I bring this leg or this whole foot up, one of the things that I do is I let this leg roll out. It needs to go into an external rotation anyway, you'll see in a second. But when I do that and I bring this foot up here, I kind of move the muscle, my quad, I move it out of the way here so that I can find the proper placement for my foot. And then as I rotate the leg back in, then all of this muscle is sort of out of the way and I don't feel that pressure, which can hurt quite a bit and it can even cause bruising. And then sometimes you can even use your hand to kind of move the meat out of the way so that you can find that perfect place for the foot to rest in.
And you can see, hopefully you can see that the foot has this nice, or the ankle has this nice straight line here. So Jelena was demonstrating it before. Just be careful that you're not going into a sickle position, letting the outside of the ankle collapse, because it's like spraining the ankle. It's going to stretch the ligaments and the tendons in a way that they don't want to stretch. Okay, that was step 2. Mm-hmm. Wow, we're only at step 2. Okay, step 3. Jelena already kind of started that. She's externally rotated the leg to put the foot into the right position on the thigh. So she's going to maintain that external rotation and then bring the left heel in towards the right knee, like that. Okay, that's the first part of step 3, step 3A. And then step 3B, now she can use her hands. She's going to, again, not lifting. Don't do that. Bad for the knee. She's going to use the hands to slide the heel up the shin, or really it's down the shin, towards the ankle of the right foot.
But you see how when I do that, it closes the knee joint. And this is really the reason why we're doing that. So instead of here torquing, you first want to close your knee joint. And then as you do that, you have to be really careful to keep reminding yourself to not let this foot slide off, because if you just let go, it kind of comes off. So all the while I'm doing this, I keep gently squeezing this knee towards the center line of the body.
Yep.
And so we're here.
Yeah, and you can see right on Jelena that she's drawn this up to close the knee joint. It doesn't fully close like this one does because it doesn't have as much room, but it does. You do feel like it's closing.
It's closed, yeah.
And then the heel on her is just at the bottom of the calf muscle. And that's going to give her like a little bit of space to slide the heel in. And then she can adduct, squeeze that other leg back in to get into position with that left foot as well. And then speaking of the position of the feet, see how Jelena's left heel is kind of pressing into the inside of the left hip or around there. Same with the right heel. That's ideal. Mm-hmm. So the heels are close to the belly or pressing into the belly.
And so when I'm in the full lotus, I don't really ever completely relax, because if I relax, then the knees start to come apart and the ankles start to, what's it called? Sickle. But there's always this gentle pressure, which is squeezing the knees, but it's also coming from my feet. So you can see that my feet are flexed, and that helps trap the foot in the correct place. And then it feels nice and connected. And it feels so much better to be holding it here. There's no discomfort, no pain, except maybe some numbing after a while.
General numbing.
But numbing is okay. Numbing is just part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, so this is a magic pose too, like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which I mentioned before about the right leg first, says too that this posture is going to, destroy ignorance and sickness in the body. But this is our base for doing a lot of meditation poses. I mean, you can sit anyway and do meditation, but this is a really nice contained way to sit, and you can train yourself to sit here for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember though the first time that I ever did lotus, I kind of exploded out of it. Like I pulled myself into it, and then I could feel all the muscles like, working, and my legs came out, and it was like that for a while.
And that's an important message, because if you're gonna sit like this, and especially if you're gonna do a seated meditation practice, when you're done, and especially if you know that you are numb, you're aware of that, be careful how you come out. So don't let this happen, because it's not really good for your legs, for your body. So when you're coming out of it, come out with that same attention that you came in, and then slowly move your, legs, use your arms, and then maybe just stay here for a few seconds, regain the sensation before trying to get up and walk.
Yeah. Eventually it does become comfortable. I've been sitting like this throughout the whole tutorial, and I'm only mildly numb through the legs. No, there's no pain after a while. But if there is pain, especially in your knees, you have to listen to that. So don't ignore it. Come out of the pose, and then you could try to get back in. If it's still hurting, just stop for the day, because you can't put any stress on the knee joint. The hip, you can kind of work with the tension, but the knees, they don't give it all. So if you feel anything in your knees, back off. Yeah,
we mentioned that in the previous tutorial about knees specifically that you can look at, but don't sit with knee pain.
Yeah.
Okay. You can sit with numbness.
Numbness is, it's kind of the absence of pain.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's it. I hope that was helpful. I want you to be safe. Work on it. Oh, if there's a reason that you can't do full lotus, and you need to modify, then the easiest modification is just to stick with Sukhasana. Here, we call this Sukhasana. Sukha is like easy pose. Or you can try to stack something like this. This is a great hip opener. So for some reason, maybe like we mentioned, your meniscus or something like that doesn't let you close your knee, then something like this gives you a ton of steadiness and a lot of benefit in the hips. Okay, I think that's it.
We hope this was useful. And if so, please let us know by commenting, liking, and maybe subscribing to our channel.
Yeah, maybe you'll be number 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.